Welcome back to the Bonafide Truth. I'm your host, Bonafide Soldier, and this video is going to be about the truth about Yahweh and the Elohim. And in this video, I'm going to go over instances where Yahweh is not working alone. He is working alongside the Elohim. He is not in a vacuum. He is not on his own. The Elohim are with him. He is deliberating. He does not act without their consent. And even the misunderstanding of Psalms 82. A lot of people misunderstand Psalms 82 and think that they're talking about humans being gods. No, they're not talking about humans being gods. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to use that as the jumping point, as the starting point for you to understand that the Elohim, they hold a council and they deliberate on their actions and their judgments and the rights of these nations. And that's what Psalms 82 is getting at, because Psalms 82 is hearkening back to Deuteronomy 32, verse 7 through 8, when it says to remember the days of old when El Elyon divided the nations and he gave the nations according to the sons of God, according to the B'nai Elohim. This is what happened, and this is what they are talking about. We know this when we read the Hebrew of Psalms 82 instead of just reading the English. But I'll read it. I'll read you the passage in English, but I will use the corrective terms, the corrected version of it. It says that the gods preside in the divine assembly of the gods. Simple as that, right? He renders judgment amongst the gods. Now, when they say he renders judgment, in Canaanite belief, this would have been El Elyon. This would have been El, the Most High Father, or it would have been Baal Hadad, who was one of the king of the gods. This would have been the God that is rendering judgment. This would have been one of the Elohim that is standing forth to render judgment. And that is why we see that the text says, how long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? This is one of the Elohim asking, when will the other Elohim like Shamash, like Astarte, like Melquart, like Milcom, when will they, how long will they judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? That's what Elohim is asking. That's what one of the gods are asking. That's what El is probably asking in this case, or Baal Hadad. And then it says, and then it says, defend the cause of the weak and fatherless, uphold the rights of the afflicted and oppressed, rescue the weak and needy, save them from the hand of the wicked. This is just a plea for the Elohim to do right by their nations, the nations that they were allotted. And then it continues, they do not know or understand. They wander in the darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I have said, ye are gods, ye are Elohim. You are all sons of the Most High. You are all sons of El Elyon. But like mortals you will die, and like rulers you will fall. Arise, O Elohim, judge the earth, for all nations are your what? Inheritance. For all nations are your inheritance. This is hearkening back to Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 7 through 9, where Yahweh inherited, where he inherited, was given the Israelites. All the other nations were given to these gods by El Elyon. He divided the nations. And this is why El Elyon or Baal Hadad is saying that you are gods. You are all sons. You are all B'nai Elohim. You are all sons of the Most High. The Most High God being El in Canaan. And then that's why it says, but like mortals you will die, and like rulers you will fall. This is the Israelites creating a theological rift between them and other Canaanite nations. This is the idea behind the Yahweh and the Elohim and the Lord of hosts and the council meetings, the divine assembly. They are hosting the divine assembly council meetings to have deliberation, to discuss their actions and their judgments and the rights of the people. That is what is going on here. And we see this start even in the beginning. Because in the beginning it says, and as it's supposed to say, when Elohim, when the gods began to create the earth, or the heavens and the earth. That is saying that the gods had to come together to create the heavens and the earth, because the heavens are ruled by the Shemayim, or by the sky gods, and then the earth is ruled by the earthly gods. We see Adama, her substrates are used to make Adam. We see plenty of examples of this. But then we also see in Genesis 1:26 that it says, let us make man in our image. When they created mankind, when they created humankind, when they developed us, when they started biogenesis for our creation, they did it together. This is hearkening back to older themes where multiple Elohim, multiple gods, multiple Anunnaki, they get together to create humanity. They get together to create. This is the same thing that is happening in Genesis 2, when Yahweh is specifically trying to create Adam and Eve, supposedly, right? This is them compressing stories, first of all. That they are compressing the story of Enki and Ninmah, Enki and Ninhursag. They are compressing the idea of Yahweh creating another person or humanity with the help of other gods by saying Yahweh Elohim. So this will be Yahweh and the Elohim, Yahweh and the other gods. They are creating Adam and Eve because Yahweh has to use Adama, the earth, the ground, the soil. That is Adama, has to use Adama to make Adam. And then Eve, made from the rib of Adam. That is from the story of Ninti, from Enki and Ninmah. Ninti is the lady of the rib. That's where they got the idea of taking Eve out of the rib of Adam. They are copying or sharing into this motif that is in the ancient Near East, that is shared by these people. We see further along in the book of Genesis, 17 through 19, the Elohim are there together. At least 3 of them. And they are called Adonai in plural. And we see Abraham addressing them in plural. And 2 of them are even sent to Sodom and Gomorrah to survey Sodom and Gomorrah to see how they should be judged. How can other beings go see how a people can be judged if they are not gods? If they are not something akin to what Yahweh is? Why would Yahweh even say to the other Elohim, or to these angels supposedly, should I let Abraham know what I am about to do? Why would the ultimate creator being care what a bunch of angels or a bunch of random obscure characters have to say about his actions? Because they are gods. Because they have a council. They have to deliberate about these things. We see this further. Not just only are they sent to Sodom and Gomorrah, but this allows Yahweh to somehow be in multiple places at once. Because Yahweh is on earth saying that he is going to punish Sodom and Gomorrah. And then all of a sudden he is in the heavens punishing Sodom and Gomorrah. It says Yahweh rained down from the heavens, right? How is this possible? Because Yahweh is communicating with other Elohim. Other Elohim are in action in these stories. We can even go back a little bit in Genesis. In Genesis 6, we see that the Bnei Elohim are coming down and mixing with the daughters of man. This happens all the time in the ancient Near East. And even the Nephilim are just another name for the Elim. It's in the name, Nephilim. Neph comes from the Hebrew word Nephal, and this means the fallen. And then Elim means the gods, Elohim. It's another word for Elohim. The fallen Elohim, the fallen gods. They are trying to say that the other gods have come down from the heavens and that they have mixed in with man, and that these are demigods. These are hybrids. This happens to the Anunnaki. This happens to the Elim or the Elohim. This is a common trope. They are saying that the other gods have come down and created demigods, pretty much. The Nephilim, or the Anakim, or the Raphaim. That's what they are in the Bible. That's what they are called. Look into it. These semi-divine beings are descendants of the Bnei Elohim. And yes, in some other variants, It's also the Bat Elohim, or the daughters of God. They also come down to mix with man. It's not just the sons of God, it's the daughters of God. And then we see even in the flood narrative, it's not just Yahweh. Yahweh is the one that's trying to save Noah. We see other Elohim are the ones causing the flood, because they're having the deliberation. Yahweh and the Elohim are communicating in this story. And I wanted to clarify that because I mentioned this in a previous video, and I was telling people that Yahweh was taking the role of Enki from the previous flood narratives, and he is. But then the other narratives have been compressed or compacted into just them saying Elohim. But there are other gods speaking in this narrative, and they may all agree on their dislike or their disdain for certain behaviors of humanity. But the idea to save humanity was an Enki coded idea. This is Yahweh taking out this idea. He is doing that feat, while we see the Elohim are also responsible for the flood, just as the other Anunnaki are in the Anunnaki variant of the stories, or in the Mesopotamian stories. We see further in the book of Chronicles that Yahweh is deliberating with the other Elohim. He asks who will go be a lying spirit, and then one volunteers, and Elohim volunteers to be a lying spirit to go deceive King Ahab. Or how about when the Israelites tried to roll up on Moab and Shamash, and the Moabite king, he sacrificed his son to Shamash, and Shamash beat Yahweh and the Israelites alongside with the Moabites. So the Moabites and Shamash beat the Israelites and Yahweh. How is this possible? How? If the other Elohim are nothing, if they are just idols, if they are false gods, you have to stop letting Christians, Muslims, and Jews, or whoever lie to you. Stop letting people that read the Bible lie to you and tell you nonsense. They are telling you nonsense because they refuse to study Israelite theology and reconnect it to its roots, which is Canaanite theology. And Canaanite theology is connected to Ugaritic theology, which is Assyrian theology, which is connected to Akkadian and Babylonian theology, which is connected to Sumerian theology, which is all encompassing Mesopotamian theology and the ancient Near Eastern theology. Once you understand all of these different facets, then you will understand what the Israelites are talking about in their text. But people refuse to understand these things, and then they want to cast judgments on others who are trying to understand these things. They want to try to misunderstand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to show you is that your text is telling you the obvious, and you are missing it because you are being indoctrinated. You have been given dogma. The other gods communicate with Yahweh. Even in the New Testament, we see that when Mary and Joseph are getting pregnant with Yeshua, the angels come down. It says the heavenly hosts come down to tell them about it. In extra biblical text, it says that the Holy Spirit is the mother of Yeshua. You know what the Holy Spirit is? Asherah, Shokma, Sophia, Kodesh. That's the Holy Spirit. And Yeshua says that is his mother. This is known. But they took that text out of the Bible. There is a bunch of information about how in the New Testament the angels come down at many different points, and even in the book of Revelation we see that they are hinting at other gods. When they talk about the Queen of Heaven, once again they are hinting at the Queen of Heaven. When they talk about the great dragon, they're talking about Tiamat or Tahamatu, or even Yam and Lotan. They are talking about other deities, because Yam, Lotan, these are other Elohim. And then we see them talking about the four horsemen. These could also be other Elohim. We see they got the god of death, Mot. We see they got the plague god. This is Reshef. They got the god of war. This could be Anat. This could be Baal Hadad. This could be Gataru. There are a number of Elohim that could be gods of war. This could even be Quosh. But we see they're not just talking about the Greco-Romans and the people that have mistreated them in the most recent history. They are talking about a long-standing history of their beef with the other Canaanites. They are also talking about their gods from the Greco-Roman perspective, because their gods have been Hellenized. Zeus is Baal Hadad. Apollo is Reshef. Artemis is Anat. or Diana is a gnat. Aphrodite is Astarte. They are talking about the same beings. Hades or Abaddon. This is all Mot. This is all Mot's territory. Or you could say it's the territory of other chthonic deities. But all we know is that they are still talking about the Elohim. They are still talking about Canaanite theology. They are still talking about the ancient Near Eastern cosmology and setup that these people had. Their theology, cosmology, their ontology, they have the same things going on. They have similar things going on. It is almost to the point where you could say that they're stealing these things, but instead they are sharing cultural motifs. They are sharing themes. Yahweh does not work alone. None of these gods have ever worked alone in their original rendition. They have always emerged from a pantheon. They have always been a part of the Elohim or the Anunnaki or any type of ancient Near Eastern pantheon, whatever you want to call it, the Elohim. This has been the case since its inception. And once we realize that, we will understand the truth about Yahweh and the Elohim. And this has been the Bonafide Truth. Stay tuned for more. Like, comment, and stay studious.